Welcome to the Midlife Edit, the podcast for women who are navigating the beautiful, messy, and sometimes sweaty journey of midlife. This isn't about a crisis, it's about an awakening. Join me, your host, Jen Weinstein, as I dive into all the things no one warned us about: hot flashes, brain fog, strength training, hormone balancing, and figuring out who the hell we are now. With a mix of expert insights, real talk, and a little humor, because if we're not laughing, we're crying, right? The Midlife Edit is your go-to space for embracing this season with confidence, strength, and balance. Whether you're trying to lift heavier, sleep better, set stronger boundaries, or just remember why you walked into a room, this podcast is here to remind you: midlife is not the end, it's just an edit, and you get to rewrite it your way. Hit subscribe and let's tackle midlife together, one episode at a time. This is the Midlife Edit. Let's make it a damn good chapter. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Midlife Edit. I'm your host, Jen Weinstein, and today I'm getting personal. Yep, you get a solo episode with me, and I'm pulling back the curtain on something I know so many of you are curious about. Maybe you're struggling with it yourself. Let's talk about hormones. More specifically, though, I promised you that I would dive into the results of my recent Everlywell hormone panel. I have them, and we're going to talk about them. I'm going to tell you what they revealed and what it means for somebody like me who's had a partial hysterectomy. So I still have my ovaries, but I had the partial hysterectomy a few years ago, and I don't menstruate. I don't bleed every month. So I'm going to tell you how I'm trying to navigate this next phase of my life, using things like nutrition and fitness and mindset just to get me through as my anchors. So I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I'm pretty honest on this podcast. I feel like, especially when I do these solo episodes, I do a lot of bitching, but let's be honest, it sucks sometimes. And the last few months for me have been weird. It's not all been bad. I'm not saying I have this terrible life. But man, some of these things hit me out of nowhere. So tired. I'm just exhausted in a way that rest doesn't fix. I could sleep for 12 hours and still feel exhausted. My motivation has been all over the place. And that's really frustrating for me, because when I started this health journey of losing weight and getting, taking my life back, basically, I feel like my motivation was at all-time high. And just the past few months, it just feels like I'm stuck. I'm getting these weird waves of anxiety out of nowhere. And the irritability too. It just hits me out of nowhere. I'm driving down the road, listening to my favorite song, and all of a sudden somebody looks at me wrong and I'm pissed off at the world. And for somebody like me who have spent the past few years training regularly and learning my body, I knew that this was more than just stress or depression, because I've struggled with depression in my life, but I knew this was something different. And it just felt like maybe it's hormonal. I read a lot of research, and I read a lot of testimonies, and I watch a lot of videos, and I hear all these women talk about all these different things, and I'm like, this has to be what's going on. So I ordered the Everlywell hormone test. So what it is, it's a saliva-based test, but it's like a finger prick test, and it would be different for somebody who still gets a monthly cycle. But I took mine all in one day. And I apologize if the sniffles throughout this. It is June in Western PA, and it's allergy season. Anyway, it's a saliva-based test that measures your key hormones. So things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHA, FSH, and cortisol. And so I wanted something sure, I get these vibes and I'm like, oh, maybe my estrogen's low, or maybe there's something going on with my progesterone or something like that. But I needed the data. I needed to see it in front of me, because sometimes you feel crazy, right? I mean, you go to the doctor and you tell them your symptoms, and they look at you like, oh, okay, well, you're just going through it, or they don't help you. And I'm not saying not all doctors are like that, but I had a partial hysterectomy a couple years ago, which I really needed because my life was miserable. I just had, I had endometriosis. I had very bad cramps and bleeding, and it was ruining my life. So I finally found a doctor who didn't think I was too young. I was 38, by the way. I think it was my fourth doctor, and she was like, yes, let's do it. Unfortunately, afterwards, we didn't talk about what was next. And I think sometimes I want to blame the doctors, but sometimes I want to blame the education that they're getting, because they don't get a lot of talk about menopause or perimenopause. They don't learn enough about it. And I know that it's changing, and the way we're talking about our bodies is completely different now than it was in the past. And I love that, and I'm embracing it, but it's still not enough. So I had this doctor who decided she was okay with giving me this partial hysterectomy. And then it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'll see you in a few weeks, and then I'll see you in a year. And it was kind of it. And then I don't know about you or where you're listening from, but it is so hard to get into a gynecologist, especially, at my age with having the partial hysterectomy. It's like I'm not important anymore. So I'm on a journey to find a new gynecologist, but I found a PCP who has been amazing. She's the one who sat me down and actually listened to me and took my symptoms seriously, and she's the one who prescribed me my estradiol. But again, like this is somebody who, she's a primary care physician. She's not a gynecologist or an OB who should know all about these things. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this Everlywell hormone test. I want to see it in front of my face. Tell me what's going on with my body. So here's what I found. My estrogen's low. Well, no shit. I mean, I already kind of knew that. I'm on estradiol, but it's still low. And when your estrogen's low, a bunch of different things can happen. But estrogen is an anti-inflammatory, right? So when you don't have enough estrogen in your body starts to become inflamed in the weirdest ways. I mean, maybe it's your feet, maybe it's your hands, maybe it's your stomach. Your insides. The way you can become inflamed without that is kind of crazy. But also, my FSH, my follicle stimulating hormone, is elevated. So if you've never heard of FSH before, and I haven't heard, I would have a couple years ago, I'd have no clue. But here's the short version. When your body senses your estrogens dropping, it ramps up FSH to try to get your ovaries to produce more estrogen. So if you have elevated FSH and you have low estrogen, guess what? You're most likely in perimenopause. It's a classic sign of perimenopause. So here's the curveball. I had a partial hysterectomy. That means my uterus is gone, but I still have my ovaries. And I don't get a monthly cycle to help me track any of this stuff. Now, that being said, when I was getting my period before, my period was all over the place. Sometimes I would bleed for a month straight. Sometimes I wouldn't bleed for 3 months. I was never able to track anything anyway. But I don't have that to help me track any of this stuff. So I can't figure this out. No missed periods, no irregular flow. That means my hormonal shifts have been silent, but so real. And sometimes it can make you feel a little crazy. So I want to emphasize this for anyone who has had a partial hysterectomy, or if you still have everything. Even if you have your ovaries, your estrogen can still drop. They might be intact, but your ovaries age just like the rest of your body does. So eventually, they slow down production. And this is why testing is so important, especially if you've had a hysterectomy and you're not getting those signs like irregular periods. So once I saw the numbers, I was like, okay, I've got to become more intentional. And this is the start of my week to become more intentional. So I'm putting it out there, and I'm going to hold myself accountable. But with nutrition especially, I know we talk about protein all the time. But even for me, holy crud, it's hard to get protein in. you think you're eating a lot of protein, and then if you start tracking, you realize, no, I'm really not. So you need to prioritize protein. I am going to prioritize my protein because estrogen helps preserve muscle mass. So when your estrogen drops, it means I'm losing that lean muscle mass faster, especially, in midlife. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to hit at least 100 to 110 grams of protein a day. And if I'm lifting heavier, which we'll get into a little bit later, I'm going to try to get more than that. I'm going to try, even if it means that I have to drink a protein shake to get my protein in. I really want to focus and prioritize on that. But then also I want to look at blood sugar balance. And, I know that when I was heavier, my A1C was elevated. And I mean, that's just a telltale sign that maybe you need to, just to be honest, to lose weight, because people who are heavier tend to have higher A1Cs. And when I say heavier, I mean unhealthy heavier. I don't want any backlash. I don't care if you're 200 pounds and you are fit as can be, or you're 300 pounds and fit as can be, but you're 150 pounds and maybe it shows that you're overweight. All of that, the BMI scale, I don't want to get into any of that. I'm not trying to be controversial here. I'm just saying, for me personally, when I was heavier, my A1C was elevated. I was on a bad path. I wasn't taking care of my body. So it didn't matter the number on the scale. It mattered my heaviness came from unhealthiness. So I'm going to pull back on high sugar foods, which I pretty much do already, but I really want to start adding in more fiber, healthy fats too, and slow digesting carbs. But fiber is something that I have never had enough of in my diet. I think most of us don't. But it also, adding fiber and healthy fats and slow digesting carbs, it's going to keep my energy and mood more stable. And that's what I need right now. Ask my husband. I need stability in my mood. But I mean, things like sweet potatoes and chia seeds and avocado, which I'm a texture person, and avocado's tough, but I'm going to try to, I'm really going to try. But things that don't spike my blood sugar and make me crash. And then some estrogen supporting foods. Certain foods are known to support estrogen, like flax seeds and broccoli and kale and Brussels sprouts. Unfortunately, I love those things. I hate to say that I'm a picky eater, but I'm a picky eater. But I love, especially broccoli and Brussels sprouts. They're two staples in our house, and my husband always says, can we change it up? But I just know that they're good. I like them. I enjoy them. And leafy greens. And then something that we've talked about, I think we talked about last week with Jen Ryder on the podcast too, but I got to cut, I mean, not me, but like in general, we got to cut way back on alcohol if we drink alcohol at all. Because it's not doing anything for our bodies. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not moving the needle at all. And I'm not saying that I'm going to fix my hormones with food, but I'm going to try to give my body the best foundation to function through these changes that it's going through. So then let's move on to fitness and why it matters now more than ever, probably. So there's a common trap that we fall into during perimenopause. So we're doing, if you're somebody who is consistently working out, whether it's at the gym or you have your Pilates or your yoga or your running or whatever, and you're doing the same thing, and then all of a sudden your body starts changing and you're like, I think I'm healthy and I've done this my whole life and everything, now all of a sudden I'm feeling sluggish and I'm gaining weight. Guess what? It's not your fault. You can't give up on it. You don't necessarily want to double down on it, but maybe change it up a little bit. So here's what I'm doing. Inspired by my friend Jen Ryder, I joined a CrossFit gym. Actually today, as I'm recording this morning was my first workout. I got a coach who was going to help me with my nutrition too, because coaches need coaches. People need to hold people accountable, right? And right now I know that I'm at that point in my life where I need accountability. I need somebody to babysit me. Because I think that I know what I'm doing, but obviously it's not working. So I need to tweak and I need somebody to hold me accountable for that. So at 6:30 this morning, I went into the CrossFit gym and I got my ass kicked in the best way possible, but I got my ass kicked and it felt great. So I'm on a 6-week program there. Let's see what happens with that, but I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to do that 3 to 4 days a week, hopefully 4 as long as I can walk. But the other days, I want to have intentional movement. So walking and stretching, or even just dancing around the kitchen, one of my favorite things to do. I love to dance around and look like a fool in my house sometimes when I'm in the kitchen making dinner or whatever. But I want to make sure that I'm getting intentional movement in. But also, something that I've been really bad at is rest and recovery. Because, again, I'm going to go back to it. And I said this to my coach today. I am a product of the 80s and 90s where when it came to food, less was more. And when it came to exercise, it was you were exercising until you were a skinny twig and it was just go, 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 go. And honestly, right now, again, I talk about hustle culture, which I'm a fan of, but we never give ourselves that time to rest and recover. And when you're strength training, it's super, super important. So I'm going to take Sundays to rest and recover. Still need to get a walk in. I still want to do some intentional movement, but I'm going to take some a rest and recovery day every week. So strength training isn't just about the aesthetics, right? It's about preserving that bone density, increasing your muscle, and boosting metabolism during a time when all these things are taking a hit. And you know what else does? It helps stabilize mood and sleep. 2 things I've noticed. I mean, we talked about mood, but my sleep sucks. And I hate to complain because I know there's so many out there who struggle with sleep, whether it's because you have small children or because you've always kind of struggled with sleep and insomnia. But I usually fall asleep okay. It's just I'm up. I mean, I'm getting hot flashes again, so that was another telltale sign that, like, hey, something's off and I need to either change the way I'm getting my estrogen or, something's wrong. But, the hot flashes and I just can't get comfortable. And it sucks. So hopefully with this more intense exercise and then also giving myself that rest and recovery day, hopefully my sleep will get better when I'm consistently doing these things. And that word right there is so key. Consistency. I am notorious for being all gung-ho about something for a week or 2 weeks and then just giving up because it gets too hard, or doing it one time and being really proud of myself and then just not doing it again. So consistency is key. Consistency is key in everything in life, right? Whether it's business or relationships or fitness, nutrition, consistency is key. So I'm going to make sure that I'm consistent with all of these things. So let's talk about mindset, because this is probably one of the hardest things. And I was thinking about this the other day. I've heard it so many times, and I do agree with it to a point. I do. Where sometimes you just have to start. Don't wait to be ready. Just start. So I agree with it for a lot of things. However, I also think that sometimes we're just not ready for something. And the 2 examples I'll give you is, the first one is CrossFit. I did CrossFit about 6 years ago, I would say. And I think I did it for like 4 weeks and I just wasn't ready. Mentally, I wasn't there. I was not committed. I didn't give it my all. I wasn't ready to change my lifestyle. This time I am. I truly am committed and I'm truly ready. And it's not necessarily changing my lifestyle because I've been on this good path, but I'm ready for the next level or something different. But also therapy. This is my probably 3rd time in therapy, but this time I was truly ready. And when you're truly ready to be able to give it your all and open up to somebody, I think that that's super, super important. So let's talk about the mindset piece, because honestly, it's probably the hardest for me to talk about, but I think no, not probably. I know that it's the most important. I've dealt with high functioning anxiety, I think, most of my life. I said, some depression. But something's shifted the last few months. I started feeling like I couldn't even handle the smallest disruptions. Just crying more in the shower, crying more in general. It sucks, but I'm a crier, but I overthink. I'm already the queen of overthinking, but now I overthink everything. Whether it's the way my boss messages me at work, I'm reading into it, or, my husband looked at me weird, so, oh my God, he doesn't love me anymore, or this is going wrong in my family, or whatever. I'm overthinking everything, every step I make. And then I'm doubting myself in ways that I haven't in a few years. I have this weird imposter syndrome with myself. And I kept wondering, is this just me? Or is it my hormones? And it turns out it's both. Once I had this data back, I was like, okay, you're not as crazy as you think you are. So I started thinking, okay, maybe I'm not losing control, but now I need to gain awareness. Therapy's help. So is journaling. Breathwork is something that I need to work on, because when I do it with my therapist, it's great, but then I just don't do it the other how many hours a week. It's something that I know that works. I just need to work on that. And honestly, recording this podcast has helped me in ways that you just can't even imagine. I'm sharing what I'm going through with somebody who I can't see. I can't see you right now. But I've gotten so many messages saying, hey, me too. Or, hey, you're not crazy. But you know what? If nobody listened to this, it would still feel good. I was talking to my sister the other day about sometimes writing a letter to somebody you're mad at, or, somebody maybe who's not here anymore, just to get all these feelings out. You don't have to give them the letter, but just writing that out, it feels really good, right? It's kind of like this podcast for me. Just talking about it makes me feel good. And that's why I appreciate you so much for listening to me. But listen, if you feel like you're falling apart, you're not. You're just shifting. And it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to give yourself permission to slow down. But it's not okay to quit. I read somewhere that the life expectancy for women in the early 1900s was 60. And I was like, no shit, because they feel like shit. And they didn't have the tools and the technology and the medicine that we have now, and the knowledge. And, it's a tough time in our lives. And I'm just so thankful to have the community that I do and the people that I do in my life to help get me through it. But I'm also proud of me, because I've taken the steps to be able to get through it, and to be able to see that, hey, this isn't normal for me, and I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to do something about it. So I have a doctor's appointment, and I'm going to see what they think about, maybe changing some medicines, and I'll keep you posted. I'm not going to do a whole nother episode on it, but I do think we need to continue to talk about perimenopause and menopause. And I have some upcoming guests that I think that you're really going to love when we talk about these things. But we need to normalize it. We need to be talking to our partners about it and explaining to them what you're going through. So whether your partner's male and he has no idea, or if your partner's female and they're younger and they haven't been there yet, you don't know. You can't understand until you actually go through it yourself, right? With most things in life, but with this especially. But what the craziest part about it is you and I, same age, going through it at the same time, completely different symptoms, right? So it's not one size fits all. And that's why it's so important to talk about. So here's what I'm going to leave you with today. If you had a hysterectomy, don't assume that your hormones are fine just because you still have your ovaries. If you're feeling crappy, maybe check it out. If something feels off, test. Advocate for your health. Be your health advocate. You've got to ask for these things. You do. I mean, they're not just going to give it to you. So ask. And if your doctor says no, find another doctor that will. Use nutrition and movement as tools, not as punishments. Don't eat a piece of cake and think, okay, now I have to go to the gym. Go to the gym because it makes your body feel good. Eat fruit, that piece of fruit over that ice cream sundae because you know that it makes your body feel better. But don't do it because you're punishing yourself. And please don't forget that mindset piece. We've come a long way in the mental health game too, but listen, your mental health matters. If you're feeling some sort of way, something's probably off. Talk about it. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a friend, to a doctor, to me. I will listen. But you don't have to suffer in silence. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about finding your rhythm again, or finding the new version of you. You're not alone. We're in this together. Again, thank you for listening and for being part of this amazing journey that I'm going through. And if you love this episode, or you have questions about testing or about perimenopause, or you just want to share your story with me, please email me, jen@themidlifeeditco.com, or send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I would love to connect with you. I love hearing people's stories because, again, this isn't one size fits all. Everybody's different. And if you want a little extra support, join the Midlife Gains Club on Facebook. I post things in there every once in a while, but maybe you can find somebody in your area that you can touch base with. But thank you for being here. We're going to do this together. We're going to rewrite our stories together. We're rewriting the narrative. We are breaking the chain. We're ending the cycle of we're just crazy women in midlife. No, we are badass women who are going to get this through this together. So until next week, this is the Midlife Edit. Let's make it a damn good chapter.